Welcome back. My name is Paul Fritz, and today we're going to take a look at some basic tools that we use in Maya for modeling. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a project. I'm going to go up here to File, down to Project Window, select it, and then here, I don't want to put this as a default. I'm going to select New, and I'm going to go ahead and name this Maya Tools Demo. Okay, and then once that's done, I'm going to select the folder I want to put it in. I actually do want to put it in my F drive, and then in my Maya projects right here, and I'm going to just go ahead and select that. All of these folders, we're going to leave these as default folders, and I'm going to go ahead and click Accept. So now I have a new project named Maya Tools Demo. If I went to my F drive, and went to my Maya projects, you'll see that right here is my Maya Tools Demo, and then all of those folders are right here. When we create and save this scene, it's going to go here into Scenes, and if I go up here right now, the next step I want to do is I want to do Save Scene As, because if you look up here, it's not been saved. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Maya Tools 1. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. Okay. Now if I take a look back here in my scenes, double click on that, there is my project, .mb file, so a Maya binary file. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is bring in a cube. Right along here, along the poly modeling, are some of our choices. You can also go up here to Create, and the polygon primitives, we see that there are a lot more choices up here. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the cube. If I select the cube, what pops in is just a basic cube without any divisions. If I wanted to, I could create a cube by double-clicking on the cube. So if I double-click, I bring up my options box, and here I can change the width, height, and depth, and then here I can also add some divisions to the width, the height, and the depth. I am going to go ahead and add 3 divisions to each of these. And then I'm going to hit Apply and W on my keyboard, select this object, move one of them. Okay, which one? There we go. So there's my original basic cube, and there is the one I just created using the option box here. Now, if I wanted to reset this, I can go up here to Edit and select Reset Settings, and everything will go back to 1. And if I hit Apply or Create, another basic cube will come out just like this one. Alright, so another way that I can add these divisions, once I've already created it, is by using my Insert Edge Loop tool. Or my Edge Loop tool. So what an Edge Loop tool does is it gives us the ability to create these edges that go all the way around our model, in this case the cube. The reason why we want to do something like that is we want to have some cross sections where our edges cross, so that we end up with more vertices, so that we can use these to help us model. So by using these vertices, I can pull them and I can shape these models into different things, these basic shapes, and start to create something. For example, this cube could become a human head if I worked on it long enough and put the right divisions in and kept working it until I matched the shape of a head. Another thing we can do is we can also select our edges, and we can also move those to model this a little bit. And we can also select our faces, and we can pull those out and shape it just like that. Kind of end up with a bump. Another thing we can do is if I select his face, I can hit Control E on my keyboard for the Extrude tool. And that's what this tool is. This came up right here. Now if I hit W on my keyboard, I can pull this forward, and I end up with this perfect cube shape out of the side of my cube here on this one side, so that it's a perfect square. Alright, so that's the Extrude tool. The reason why I hit the W instead of just using the actual Extrude tool itself was I didn't want to accidentally create a double face. You can sometimes do that with the basic tool, and you also have a lot of other options with that basic tool. So if I click off this tool by hitting Q on my keyboard, select the face again and hit Control E, you can see that this has given me some other choices for my extrude tool. And some of the things that can actually happen if I don't do this correctly is I can kind of mess some things up. I can accidentally select the wrong piece. I'm going to go ahead and Control Z back out of that. Now if I select it again, hit Control E, hit W, bring up that tool, I can extrude it on top of it again. Now double faces are basically where two like flat surfaces are laying on top of each other. So think of two pieces of paper, but now make it an envelope so that all four edges are connected. They're all sharing the same corners and they're sharing the same edges, but you have two different flat surfaces sharing it. That causes problems when we start to try to create UVs on our models so that we can texture them. So having those double faces can cause you some issues. You have to clean your geometry up at that point. The best thing is to try to avoid that in the first place. Alright, so now we've got an extrusion out the side here. What I'm going to do is over here on this particular model, I'm going to go to my object mode by holding my right mouse button down and selecting object mode. So right mouse button, hold it, and you'll end up with these menu and some different selections here. Now it's all green, all the corners are green, so that means I'm in object mode. I am going to now put in some edge loops. Several different ways to get to the edge loop tool. One of them is to hold the shift button down and the right mouse button down and select your edge tool right here. And when I get that, I can click on it and I can now put an edge on. You see those dotted lines around it? If I put it somewhere and then I release the left mouse button, I end up with this edge loop. And I can do it all different directions from different edges simply by selecting, and I can move it up and down and put it anywhere I want. Hitting Control Z to take those out. Now what I'm going to do is right mouse button, go back to my object mode, and I'm going to pull up my extrude tool again. And or not my extrude tool, my insert edge loop again. And that could also be found up here in your mesh tools under insert edge loop. But this time I want the option box. So I'm going to select the little option box, and it brings up the tool settings here. So right here is what the mode that we're in is relative distance from edge. You can also pick equal distance from edge, and we can also do multiple edge loops. I'm going to select that. I'm going to leave my use equal multiplier on, and my number of edge loops, I want them to be 3 this time. Now when I click on it, you can see that I end up with these 3, but by using the equal multiplier, I can't slide it anywhere. They're just going to basically be put in so that each of these lines are equidistant from each other. And if I select each of the different edges from the different directions, you'll see that I can now make my cube look just like this other cube that I already created here. Again, the reason why we want to do that is so that we can start taking these basic shapes and modifying them. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use the target weld tool. So first, again, I'm going to go ahead and extrude from here, but this time my cube is a little bit different. This one's got 3 segments, this one's got 4 segments. So the way I'm going to do this is going to look a little weird, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select just one of these faces. Probably select this one right here. First hit Q on my keyboard to quit the tool. That would probably be better. Select my face. Select that one right there. And I'm going to go ahead and Control E for extrude. W to pull it out. Pull it out this way. Kind of meet it out there. You can see that there's going to be a size difference in the two and definitely a positional difference. We can go ahead and work with that. So now what I want to do is go ahead and quit that tool. With the face selected, I'm going to delete that face because what will happen is if I do the target weld, I'll end up with this face right up against that one, and we'll be right back at the scenario where we have 2 surface areas right on top of each other, and we want to try to avoid that. So I'm going to delete that face. I could leave this one, but we don't want to have an extra face that's not needed, especially since it's going to be hidden inside the model. We're not going to see it, so we might as well delete it. We don't need that extra geometry in there. Now I'm going to go back to object mode. With the first one selected, I'm going to hold the shift button down and select the second one by holding the shift button. So now they are both selected, and I want to combine them so they become basically one object. And they both turn green when I do that. Now the next thing I can do is go up to my target weld tool that is located here. I can also hold the shift button down, right click and hold, and it's located here. And it's also found in my mesh tools. Let's see here. It is actually my target weld tool right down here at the bottom. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to select the models again, select my target weld from there. And by clicking on one, I can select and drag it, and the yellow line will appear, and now they'll end up getting connected. So what this is going to demonstrate is that I can target weld shapes that are different sizes so that they end up combining in sort of a taper. And that's what we have happening here. So we have this sort of crooked taper happening here. What I could do is I can select it, hit Q on my keyboard to quit, W to move them, and I can kind of just move it around a little bit, straighten it out if I wanted to, give a little bit more of an intended appearance to it. I could even, if I wanted to, select the bottom two by marquee selecting. So basically, left mouse button hold and then do a selection like this. And now I can select those bottom two, and I can pull this down a little bit, give it a little bit cleaner taper. Another thing I could do is select these four over here by doing a marquee select again. Hit R on my keyboard for scale. And right here in the middle, I can just kind of scale these down a little bit, kind of work the taper a little bit better. So now it looks a little bit more natural, like it's supposed to be that direction. Maybe bring this down just a little more. Or maybe up. This one should probably go up. There we go. All right. So now we've combined two objects. We've done an extrusions, and we've target welded them together. So let's go ahead and take a look at a bridge tool. What I'm going to do is quit the tool. I'm going to go ahead and bring up another cube, double click on it, make sure that it's basic because that's what I want right now. And I'm going to go ahead and hit create. W on the keyboard, pull that out here. And what I want to do is shape it so that this looks more like a wall. Thin it out a little bit, kind of stretch it. Okay. Bring it up to the surface area here. Good enough. All right, so I'm going to put a window in this particular wall. So again, shift, right click and hold, bring up my insert edge loop tool, and click back on here. Oops, I need to get rid of that. So I need to go ahead and this time hold shift, right click and hold. Need to be back in the object mode. Right click and hold, and select the option box from here for my insert edge loop. Select my relative distance from edge. And now when I click on it, I can control where it's going to go. So put that edge loop in there. One down here. Offset my window to the side of this wall. Something like that. All right, Q to quit the tool. Right click and hold, select face. I'm going to delete that face and delete that face. So now I've got a hole in my model that needs to be fixed. We can't leave holes like this because again we may run into some issues with our model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge it. I'm going to right click, select my edge, and right here I'm going to select this first edge, hold the shift button and select the second edge. Right up here is my bridge tool. I'm going to select that. You can also find the bridge tool up here under Edit Mesh and right there Bridge. Okay. So again, I'm going to hold that. I'm going to click on the edge, hold the shift button and select the next one. This time I'm going to hit G on my keyboard. G will repeat our last command. And since it was bridge, it should bridge it. Do that again here and here. Hit G. And then down here and down here. Now you have to have an equal number of edges selected. You can't bridge unequal numbers. Even though they might be the same length, if I had two edges here and then one edge over here, they would not bridge. And you would end up with an error. So now we've closed that hole up and I have a basic window opening. Alright, so this time I'm going to put in a door. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my object mode, Q on my keyboard to quit. I'm going to select Insert Edge Loop again. I already had set it correctly, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in some lines in here for my door opening. Q to quit again, right click to face, select this one, or on the other side, hold my shift button and select this one and this one so they're all selected. And I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. And I also need to delete this bottom face down here. Alright, now I have several that I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my edge. I'm going to select this edge, this one, and select my bridge tool. Same here. Hit G on my keyboard to repeat. Here, 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 and here, and G once again to repeat. Okay, so now I have door opening and I have a window opening in this wall. Now I think what I'm going to do is put in some windowsill. So again, object mode, pick my insert tool loop, edge tool loop, select, put in some edges here and here. You'll notice it doesn't go around where the door is. I don't need lines over here, just over here. One thing we got to do is we make sure that we don't end up having additional edges and vertices that we don't need, so we want to try to minimize that. With this one selected, I'm not really happy where that one's sitting. If I hit W on my keyboard with my line still highlighted, I can now select it and I can move it up and down and try to match what's up there. If I wanted to, I could also select some of these other pre-existing ones and move them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that real quick. If I wanted to just select one, I can pull it, but see, it also is going to adjust the way this line is shaped here because it's still pointed and connected here. Another thing I could do is I could select one line and then double click next to it by holding the shift button, and it'll select that entire loop all the way around. And again, I can move this up and down, put it where I want it. So now with this tool over here, my tool tray, this is my insert edge loop. I'm going to select that one again and click back over here, and I'm going to put on side one and a side one here. I'm not quite happy with those two. A little bit wider. And the same over here. I can just double click on that one. I can do that same thing. Alright, so now I've moved those lines. I got them kind of where I want them. Right click, select my faces. I'm going to select one, double click here. It'll select that row that I want. Hold the shift, do that again. Select this one and this one. This time I'm going to do Control E, W, and now I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out a little bit, give myself a little bit of a windowsill. And you notice what's happened is I also have some additional edges and vertices. So if I wanted to come in, I could also adjust these a little bit so that I could give it some different characteristics. I'm just going to leave it the way it is right now. Alright, so I'm done with that tool. I'm going to hit Q to quit. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to put a window in here so I can demonstrate a little bit about materials. So I'm going to bring in another cube, W to move it, bring it over here, go ahead and pull it up into this section here. Kind of center it a little bit, make it a little easier to get everything lined up. Put it over and over. Now I'm going to thin it out a little bit so it actually looks more like a window. Thin it down a little bit more. Down inside there. Getting there. Okay. Alright. Now with that done, I'm going to go ahead and change this material so that I can make it transparent. Now, with the original material, the Lambert on here, we don't want to change Lambert 1. Never change Lambert 1, otherwise everything that you do will end up looking like what you changed on Lambert 1. Every time you create a new material, it'll look like whatever you changed it to. We don't want to do that. We want to make this a new material. So I'm going to right click and hold my right mouse button down and go down to assign new material, and that should bring up a tool that didn't appear. Where'd it go? There it is. It hit on me. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to actually make this an Arnold. So I'm going to select Arnold, go down to AI Standard Surface and select that. And with that open, I am going to go ahead and first I'm going to select this first one here, change this name to window. And that'll change its ID information. And then I'm also going to change this one as well. And what it's going to do is it's going to name it window 1. And down here is our base color, our specular. We want to change transmission. So I'm going to select transmission. And the slider on top, I'm going to go ahead and slide it down until it starts to become transparent. You can start seeing through it. You can push it up just a little bit more, somewhere around 8, make it really kind of see-through. You can also change the tinting color of this window if you wanted to, simply by selecting the color here and selecting a different color. So if I wanted to give it kind of a tintish color to it, I could do that. And you can kind of see if I took this, there we go. Alright, so now I got close enough up to it, selected the window back again, selected the window up here in the tools. I can come in here and play around with the transmission color here, make it more transparent. You can play around with it until it really becomes invisible. But I'm going to go ahead and put it back to the white color. Alright. So you can kind of see through it there. And that's what the issue is. Playing around with the wrong one. Let's go down to transmission. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we can kind of change this around a little bit so that there's less influence of the color. Tint it down just a little bit. Now it's more see-through. There you go. Alright, pay attention to which one you're changing here because they all kind of look the same, but if you look at the title, they're a little bit different. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, please just shoot them to me down in the bottom underneath in the comments, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.